So number one, right, the most important thing or reason you should learn is so that you yourself have knowledge. Number one. Number two, you yourself practice. This is before you're thinking about anyone else. Because Yawm al-Qiyamah, you will be asked about you, what you did. What you did with what you knew. Did you know? Did you practice what you knew? Okay? Even if you end up never teaching anyone, that's fine. It's okay. At least you learned, at least you practiced. So you want to learn yourself. You want to practice. And then once you've learned and you've practiced, now you're worried about, okay, who am I going to teach? But you're not worried about teaching others before you practice yourself. You're not worried about practicing before you know. You can't practice something without knowing it. And then once you teach, you know that you have to be patient. Right? Because students are not going to respect you. Students are not going to understand the value of the knowledge that you have. So you have to be patient. We're clear? We're good? So that's our intention. And of course the intention is for Allah. So I'm learning so that I can avoid ignorance, but for Allah. Not for any worldly gain, not for people to say, oh, he has knowledge. Oh, that guy is knowledgeable, he knows a lot. So if you learn for that reason, there's no benefit in the hereafter. Straight to hell, na'udhu billah. One of the first people to go to hell, in fact, are the ones who learn so that people can say, oh, he got knowledge. I know. I have knowledge. You know that, right? As long as you know. What did you say?
Lessons over.
Lessons over. So those are some of the first people to go to hell. Na'udhu billah. They learn so people can say, oh, he has knowledge. They recite Quran so people can say, oh, he has a beautiful voice. Right? Straight to hell. Na'udhu billah. So our learning should be for Allah Azza wa Jal alone, to avoid ignorance, then to practice, then to teach, and to be patient. Okay? Yesterday we talked about the adhan, the iqama, the times for salah. Okay? Today is a very thick and not thick, but a heavy meal, because we're going to go through the aspects of salah. What does it say on the schedule? Remind me.
Something like prerequisites, pillars, nullifiers.
Right. Prerequisites, pillars, nullifiers. All right. So any form of worship, you can write this down. Any form of worship has pillars, prerequisites or requirements. Any form of worship has requirements, pillars, and nullifiers. Any form of worship has requirements, pillars, and nullifiers. So let's get some terminology out of the way. Yes.
What nullifiers means?
Nullifier? Mubtilat. Listen. It's things that make something void, not counted. Okay? So you have a debt, for example, of $100. You put $100 in your account, how much do you have? Zero. Right? Yes. So the $100 debt voided, nullified the $100 that you put in the account. Yeah? All right, so let's get some terminology out of the way. A requirement, the Arabic for requirement is what? Shart. Shart. Sheen, ra, ta. Shart. So a requirement is an action or a thing without which the salah is void. So basically, if you have it, the salah can be valid. If you don't have it, the salah is void. A requirement is something. If you have it, the salah can be valid. It's not necessarily valid. It can be valid. You guys follow?
Yeah.
If you don't have it, the salah is necessarily void. So like wudu. If you have wudu, it doesn't mean you have to make salah. Okay? If you have wudu, it does not mean that you must make salah. However, without wudu, salah is void. Clear? So if you have it, the salah, the thing can be valid. Without it, the salah is void. Mashi? A pillar is the most important part of the thing. The pillar is what? Meaning, if there's no pillar, there's no thing. A good example of that is a four-legged chair. Okay? How many legs does the chair have? 4 legs. If one leg is cut off, what happens to the chair?
Might fall.
It falls. Not might fall, it falls. Okay? A 3-legged chair. One leg is taken away, what happens to the chair? It falls. Okay? So a pillar is the most important part of a thing. That's a pillar. Okay? Right, pillar. And then we said nullifiers. A nullifier is something that causes a thing to be void. Okay? An example of a nullifier is putting poison in water. Right? You have a cup of water, you put poison in it. So the water is supposed to be nourishment. If you put poison in it, it's as if it's not nourishment, it's gonna kill you, right? So that's a nullifier. Okay? So the salah has requirements, and that's 1 through 9. You just remember them. Okay? The salah also has pillars, 1 through 14. You just remember them. And the salah has nullifiers. And that's about 15 or 20. I don't remember exactly the number, but you know them. Alright? Right. There are also obligatory things in salah. So when it comes to salah, when we talk about pillars, then we talk about obligatory actions. What is an obligatory action? I'm asking. I'm sorry, what? Within salah, there are things that are obligatory. What does that mean?
You have to do that. Must be done.
Must be done.
Must be present.
Right, must be present. But what's the difference between obligatory action and a pillar? Yes, Layla.
You can't do prayer unless you
Until what? Unless what?
do the obligatory.
You do the obligatory. I'll tell you. So these are terminologies that are used by fuqaha, jurists, Islamic jurists, in order to differentiate between things that are important, less important, less important, less important. And where they're getting these things from is from the Quran and from the Sunnah. Mostly from the Sunnah because there's not much detail about Salah in the Quran. How many Salah do we have every day? 5. Where is that in the Quran? Nowhere. It's not in the Quran. I need a second here. Yeah. So the 5 salawat are nowhere in the Quran. The time for salah, there's 3 times that are mentioned for salah in the Quran. The time for dhuhr, the time for isha, and the time for fajr. These are the 3 times that are mentioned in the Quran. How many salahs do we have? 5. So where did the salah for the time for Asr come in? And where did the time for Maghrib come in? Remember we talked about yesterday the person who's traveling, and we say the time for Dhuhr is also the time for Asr, that's 1 time period. And the time for Maghrib and Isha is 1 time period. That's based on that. Okay. But we know the details from the Sunnah. Prophet ﷺ said, I was given the Quran and something like it, which is the Sunnah. So the only way for us to properly understand the Quran is through the authentic Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah? Right. So salah is an obligation, right? The terminologies before we get to this. So an obligatory action and a pillar. We said a pillar is what? A pillar in salah is what? The what? The most important part. Okay? An obligatory action is an important part. And. Most important and important. You see the difference? See the difference? Okay, so I'll tell you, I guess in practice, why there's a difference. A pillar must be done. If you forget the pillar, you have to go back and do it. If you miss a pillar, the salah is void. Just like the legs on the table. A pillar must be done. No ifs, ands, buts about it. A pillar must be done. Okay? An obligatory action also must be done. Unless you forget. An obligatory action also must be done unless you forget. If you forget, you don't have to do it. They're both important, but one is more important than the other. Got it? a requirement or shart, sheen ra ta, the salah is void without it. It just doesn't count. You see the difference? A requirement happens before the salah. A pillar happens during the salah. It's part of the salah. A requirement is something that happens before the salah. Okay? You guys with me, right? So a pillar is a rukn. Ra, kaf, noon. Rukn. Ra, kaf, noon. Rukn. An obligatory action is wajib. Waw, alif, jim, ba. Wajib. Got it? Got it. Fine. We said yesterday, who has to make salah? Yes.
A person that's above the age of 10.
A person who is Muslim,
Muslim,
of sound mind, of age. That's who has to make salah. A Muslim who is of sound mind, of age. And we talked about the age in detail. Sahih? Okay. What about a woman who's on her monthly cycle? Does she have to make salah? So that's an exception. What about a woman who is going through postpartum bleeding? Does she have to make salah? I'm asking. No. So that's another exception. So every Muslim or Muslimah who is of sound mind, of age, must make salah. Got it? Got it. All right, so you guys ready for the number? Let's go. So we're starting with the requirements. The requirements happened before. So what would prevent someone's salah to be accepted? If they're not Muslim. Right? So just to think about it. So you know the requirements for an obligation. So kind of like think about, okay, what makes it void? All right. So the requirements of salah. 9. How many? 9. The first is Islam. A non-Muslim, salah is void. The first is Islam. A non-Muslim, their salah is void. The second is having sound mind. Person who is insane, not mentally stable, if they make salah, it's accepted. But it's not an obligation. The third is the age of discernment, which starts at 7, which is a light obligation, and then at 10, which is a little more strict between the child and their parents, and then puberty, which is between the child and their Lord. So what are the 3? The 3 requirements for salah is what? Islam, sound mind, discernment. Age of what? Discernment. So they can discern right and wrong. Okay? So that's 7, and then 10, and then puberty. Those are the 3 stages of discernment. 7, 10, puberty. That's 3. 4 is wudu. You guys talked about wudu, right, with Sheikh Jamil? Yeah? So 4 is wudu. Purity from hadath. Wudu, that's 4. 5 is what? Removing najasa. So any filth. Removing najasa. Write that. Removing najasa. What is najasa? Filth. Urine, feces, and so on. That's what? 5. Removing najasa. So 4 is performing wudu. 5, removing najasa. 6, covering your private parts. Yeah.
Are they in order?
I'm sorry, what?
Are the requirements in order?
They can be.
So when you're saying that, is it in a random order or is it?
No, I'm keeping a certain order because it's sequential. It's in sequence. However, it's not necessary to have to be in this order. So for example, you're dressed, but you don't have wudu. Right? You don't have to take off your clothes in order to make wudu.
But I mean, like, is the way you're saying that, like, the way you remember that, is it like in order?
It's in order because it's sequence, it's in sequence. So you kind of imagine you start being a Muslim. And then as a Muslim, you're sane. And then as a sane Muslim, you're of age. And then of age, now you have to make wudu. And then after you make wudu, you have to make sure you cover. You have to make sure you clean your body. Right? And then after that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in that order. So remember, it's 9.
What if you want to use first before you start to do
So that's one of the requirements of wudu, is that before you start wudu, you have to remove filth from your private parts. So you have to clean after you use the bathroom. That's one of the requirements of wudu. However, if there is filth on your clothes, you can still make wudu before you clean that filth from your clothes. Okay? So where are we? How many?
6.
So what are the 5? What are the 5? What are the 6? Young man here, what's your name?
Allah.
Allam. Like, what are the 6 requirements of wudu? Number 1. Requirements of salah, not wudu. 6 requirements of salah. Number 1. Maybe you need to ignore your phone for a while. And use your notebook. Good idea, right? It's a good thing you brought it. Now you have to use it. Allah? What are the 6?
Islam.
Islam.
Having
If a non-Muslim makes salah, what happens?
it's void.
It's void, absolutely. 2, Umar?
Sound mind.
I'm sorry, what?
Sound mind.
Sound mind. If an insane person makes salah, what happens?
Still accepted.
It's accepted, however,
It's not required.
it's not required. Number 3. I forgot your name. Hamza.
Age of discernment?
Age of discernment. What's that age?
7 to 10 to puberty.
7, 10, puberty, right? Different stages. If a child younger than 7 makes salah, what happens?
It's accepted.
It's accepted. Layla, what's number 4? Wudu, right, exactly. Number 5, Zakaria?
Covering your navel and your knees.
Is that number 5?
6.
That's 6. So it's fine. Covering your awrah, your private parts. Number 5. Number 6 is removing najasa. There's 3 more. Number 7 is what? What's number 7? We didn't say it. Intention is the last thing we mentioned. Number 7 is the time. Okay? If a person prays before the time, what happens? It's void. The time for salah. We talked about that yesterday. Number 8. Qibla. What is the meaning of Qibla? Direction. Direction of what?
The Kaaba.
The Kaaba, which is where?
Mecca.
Which is which direction? In that way. Which is what? Zakaria. Northeast. On the compass is how many degrees? 50, 51, 52, 53 is fine. 50 is fine. Right? So if a person prays like that way a little bit, it's okay. A little bit that way is okay. Got it? Right? It doesn't necessarily have to be spot on, but you try your best. If you have a compass and you know 52 degrees, then you face 52. If you don't have a compass, you see the sun, you know what direction south is, northeast, then you face that direction. Okay? Do your best. That's the name of the game. The name of the game is do your best. So that's 8. 9 is the intention. What's the intention that you need to have for salah? It's okay to make a mistake, yani. I mean, at least try. Give it a shot. I mean, I know you guys make salah. Praying fi sabilillah. Huh? Ayo Tariq.
Intention to pray a certain salah that you're doing. Like if you're going to pray Dhuhr, you have to have the intention to pray Dhuhr.
For
For
for Allah. So those two things. That particular salah, number 1. Number 2, for Allah. Now, do you have to say 4 rak'ah? I'm praying Dhuhr 4 rak'ah. Right? You can. Do you say it with your tongue? You can, but it's not necessary. The sunnah is you don't. Okay? So the intention is that salah for Allah. Yes.
You said the sunnah is you don't say anything.
Okay? Yeah. So that's 9. Recap. Muhammad Saleh, what is the first requirement for salah? You have to be Muslim. Number 2, I forgot your name. Muhammad. What's number 2? Being sane. Number 3, Sa'id. You did it to yourself, bro. Number 3, Umar.
Age of discernment.
I'm sorry, what?
Age of discernment.
Age of discernment. What is age of discernment, Yasid?
7, 10, and puberty.
Oh, yeah. 7, and then 10, and then puberty. That's number 3, right? Number 4, Maria. Wudu. Number 5, Layla. Number 5, Hamza. Removing filth. Number 6, I forgot your name. Hashim.
Covering your aura.
Covering your awrah. Number 7, Zakaria. The time comes in. Number 8, Sister Noor. Facing the Qibla. And 9, Amma. Ala. I'm sorry, what? You gonna write that down? The intention. The intention. Right. Any questions on those?
So 9.
I'm sorry, what?
9 total.
9 total. Okay. Any questions on those? Clear, right? Khalas, alhamdulillah. All right, so now we have the pillars, arkan, rukn. Okay? The pillars of salah, they're 14. How many? 14 pillars of salah. What is a pillar? Layla. Right, the most important thing in the salah. That's a pillar. What's the difference between a pillar and an obligatory action? Muhammad Saleh. Obligatory action is? It's also mandatory. What's the difference? Aywa, Tariq.
Pillar is the most important thing, and if you forget it, you have to redo it. But an obligatory action is an important thing, and if you forget it, you don't have to redo it.
You don't have to redo it. There's a way to make it up. A pillar, there's no way to make it up. The only way to make it up is to do it. If you don't do it, you're messed up. You're busted. As for an obligatory action, if you miss it, there's a way to make it up. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. All right, the pillars are how many? 14. So the first of the 14 is standing when able. Standing when able. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. Stand before Allah qaniteen with tranquility. Prophet ﷺ said to Imran ibn Hussein, pray standing. If you cannot, then pray sitting. And if you cannot, then pray laying down. So the first pillar is standing when able. Standing when able. Which means if you're not able, what do you do? Sit. Do your best. This is for the obligatory salawat, the 5. It's a pillar in the obligatory salah. It's a caveat, a nuance. As for the extra salawat, the nawafil, the sunan, right? Praying standing is better than praying sitting. So if you pray sitting, you have half of the reward. Even if there's nothing wrong with you. You want to pray sitting, that's fine. But you're missing out on half of the reward. Yes, my friend.
If you can't pray standing up and you pray sitting, do you get half the reward? Or is it?
You can. It's different. The rule is for those who cannot.
What if you can, but it's really hard?
Then you pray standing. But if it's really hard for you and it'll cause you harm, then sit. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. At the end of the day, it's how much can you take? There's been reports of people, even of recent, in our day and time, who are unable to walk. And they are brought to the masjid leaning on 2 people. They can't walk themselves. And they're put in the line to make salah. Once they're in the line, they can stand. And they make salah as if there's nothing wrong with them. And once they're done, they collapse. These are with Allah. This is things that just can't be explained. They've been making salah so long that they have weakness outside of salah. In salah, they have strength. Subhanallah. All right. So the first pillar of salah is standing when able. The second pillar of salah is to say Allahu Akbar at the beginning. The first Allahu Akbar. So that first Allahu Akbar puts you into a different state of mind and state of being. Okay? So you're moving from a state of freedom before Allahu Akbar. You can eat, you can drink, you can talk, you can have fun, you can. So many things. But when you say Allahu Akbar, you're going into prison. You're imprisoning yourself. Right? You're entering into the realm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You guys watch like sci-fi movies? Yeah? And then when you kind of like walk into the different units, like you're walking into a different universe, everything changes. Right? That's what happens when you say Allahu Akbar. That's what should happen when you say Allahu Akbar. Yes, my friend.
You can't pray when you're eating, so why isn't that like a requirement of salah?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you pray with, you can't like have food in your mouth when you pray, so shouldn't that be a requirement of salah? Or is that indifferent? Can you pray?
So that's a good question, to be honest with you. So so he's saying you can't pray when you're eating. So isn't it a requirement? Shouldn't it be a requirement that you're not eating? So if you think about the requirements of salah, they're all things that you do. Yeah? Not eating is something that you don't do. Okay? So, eating is not something that people do all the time. Okay? So it's something that is something that happens. It's something that's renewed. So eating is going to be one of the nullifiers. It's one of the nullifiers of salah. Okay? So if you do it, your salah is void. Okay? Where were we? The second requirement of salah is takbirat al-ihram. Allahu Akbar. It's called takbirat al-ihram, meaning the takbirah of sanctity. Right? You say Allahu Akbar, you're going into a sanctuary. Like you're entering into the masjid, kind of. Okay? So that first takbirah. Number 3 is recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. That's number 3. It's in sequence. Yes, my friend.
Is number 3 for every rakat, or is it just like once?
No, every rak'ah. Surah Al-Fatiha is a must to recite. It's a pillar to recite every rak'ah. Except, there's an exception, caveat, nuance. If a person is following the imam and enters the salah just before ruku' or while the imam is in ruku'. So you come to the masjid and the imam is in ruku'. So you enter the salah, Allahu Akbar, and you go straight into ruku', you do not have to recite Fatiha. Yes.
When you're reciting Fatiha, do you recite it like when the imam is, if you're like in salah, do you recite it at the same time?
We're getting to that. We're getting to that. I was about to talk about that. So now either the imam is reciting out loud or he's reciting in secret. If the imam is reciting in secret, then you recite Fatiha. If the imam is reciting out loud, you recite Fatiha during the times that the imam is quiet. Okay? So the imam recites Fatiha, wal dallin, everybody says Ameen, and then he's quiet for a second, you get in a couple of ayat. The imam may be quiet after he finishes the surah, before he makes ruku', you finish Fatiha. So you recite Fatiha during the times that the imam is quiet. Okay? Clear?
What if it's not enough time?
If it's not enough time, then the imam holds the responsibility.
Don't the madhahib differ on?
There's a lot of talk, nuances on this particular issue, and I don't want to get too deep into it. Basically, recite Fatiha. Unless you're unable, if you're following. If you're following, you're unable, khalas. So the first pillar is standing when able in the obligatory prayer. Second pillar is saying Allahu Akbar at the beginning. Takbiratul Ihram. The takbir, the Allahu Akbar of sanctity. 3 is reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. So Surah Al-Fatiha is a surah that everybody has to know. If you don't know it yet, you learn it. If you're unable to recite it because you don't know it, you have to learn it. Does that mean all of your salawat are not accepted? No. You do what you can, you do your best. Right. Number 4 is what? Think about it. Think about it. What? Ruku'. Bowing. Ruku'. Ruku', you want to make sure your back is straight. And your hands are on your knees. Back is straight, hand on your knees. Okay, I'll demonstrate. You guys have probably seen me make ruku' before, but it won't hurt to demonstrate. You don't want your head to be up, you don't want it to be down. Your head is straight. And your back as straight as possible with your hands on your knees. That's number 4, ruku'. 5 and 6 are raising from ruku'. That's number 6. That's number 5. Number 6 is standing straight. Because some people, when they come out of ruku', they do this. And they go straight down. So they did number 5, which is coming out of ruku', but they did not do number 6, which is standing straight.
What's about the head? What's about the position of the head?
Position of the head?
Straight.
Some scholars say straight, some scholars say looking down at your place of sujood. Other scholars say looking at your feet. The most important thing is khushu', concentration. So where you can look, where you're concentrating, that's the best. So 5, ruku' is 4, 5 is coming up out of ruku', 6 is standing straight. They're two different things. Okay? Because some people, and I'm pretty sure you guys seen some people do this, they come out of ruku' and they go straight to sujood. Without standing up all the way. Yes, my friend.
What if you can't concentrate? Because sometimes like there's thoughts.
We talked about that. We talked about that, right? So concentration has always been a problem from olden times. You just have to keep at it. Okay? Just get better at it. Keep practicing, keep trying, keep asking Allah, keep making dua. So 5 and 6. 5 is raising, 6 is standing up fully straight. 7 is what? Sujood, prostration. Okay? And you're prostrating on 7 bones. How many? 7 bones. 2 hands, that's 1, 2. 2 knees, 3, 4. 2 feet, 5, 6. And 7 is the forehead with the nose. 7 bones. Okay? Some people, they're in sujood. I'm pretty sure you guys can see me. They do this in sujood. Can you guys see my feet?
Yes.
You see my feet? They do this. Or they do this. They're prostrating, which is a pillar, but they're missing something. Got it? So make sure you're on 7 bones. Got it? When able, of course. That's the name of the game. Do your best. Yes, my friend.
We're prostrated, but what's the difference? Like some people lay their hands flat, some people they don't. And I asked
You don't want to put your elbows on the floor because that's how a dog sits. Okay? Don't put your elbows on the floor. And at the same time, you don't want to put your elbows like this, especially if you're in congregation, because the person on your right and left are going to hate you. Right? You're elbowing them. So put your elbows in. Unless you're praying alone. If you're praying alone, you can spread your wings. Alright? That's how many? 7. 8 and 9 is like with ruku'. Raising from sujood and sitting upright. What name? So 8 and 9, raising from sujood and sitting upright. Got it? How many more left? 5 more. You guys want to recap right quick?
I have a question. How long are you supposed to sit upright before you make
You gotta give me a second, bro. You can't jump the gun, akhi. Can't jump the gun, brother. We're getting there. Inshallah. Luqman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah. So 10 is something that's called tuma'nina. Tuma'nina is tranquility, serenity. Tuma'nina is being comfortable. Right? What does it mean?
Serenity.
At ease. Not. There you go. No. Okay? And I'll tell you guys, yes.
Is 10 throughout the whole salah?
I'm sorry, what?
Is 10, is it throughout the whole salah?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's throughout all of the pillars.
And why isn't the first one the last one?
Sorry, what?
Why isn't it like the first one and the last one?
Make it the first. It doesn't necessarily have to be in this order, but the reason why it's mentioned later is because what are you being comfortable with if you don't have anything to be comfortable in? You don't know, okay, you're supposed to be comfortable with what? Supposed to have serenity with what? So it comes later after all of the actions that you're supposed to have serenity in. So the story and the reason where we get this from, a good number of the pillars, is from the hadith of a man that indicates or that talks about a man who walked in the masjid and he made salah. And then after he made salah, he sat next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him to go back and pray because he didn't pray. He went back, he prayed again, then he went and sat with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, go back and pray because you did not pray. Went back, prayed again, came and sat with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, go back and pray because you did not pray. Now imagine being in that situation. Embarrassed, right? Three times. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, go back and pray because you did not pray. Fourth time. You know what they say about insanity, right? What is insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same different results, right? So the man was like, I mean, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, you know, I'm not quoting the guy, radiyallahu anhu. But basically, he got to the point where he was like, there's no point in me going back because it's going to be the same result. Let me try something else. And it seems like this is what the Prophet ﷺ was waiting for. Because it's difficult to teach someone who does not realize that they're doing something wrong. Yeah? So once he realized he was doing something wrong, and the Prophet ﷺ also wanted to teach everyone something. He told him, if you stand up for salah, then kabbir, say Allahu Akbar. That's one of the pillars or no? What about standing? Prophet said, if you stand up for salah, إِذَا قُمْتَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. So that's the first pillar, standing. فَكَبِّرْ, say Allahu Akbar. Then recite what you know of the Quran. We know it's Fatiha, that's 3. Right? Same. Right? ثُمَّ اقْرَأْ مَا تَيَسَّرَ مَعَكَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ ثُمَّ ارْكَعْ, make ruku'. That's 4, right? حَتَّى تَطْمَئِنَّ رَاكِعًا, until you are comfortable in your ruku'. That's the one. Comfortable in your ruku'. And then stand up until you are comfortable in your stance. And then prostrate until you are comfortable in your prostration. And then sit until you are comfortable in your, what is it? Posture, you're sitting. And then do that throughout your salah. Got it? So number 10 is comfort, tranquility, serenity, whatever you want to call it. Now my friend Hamza is asking, how long? Like, how do I know that this is enough time? The scholars say, the scholars of the Hanabila, they say enough time, so you get into position and then you say Subhana Rabbi al-A'la or Subhana Rabbi al-Azim once, at least. So for example, this is bare minimum, right? Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim. Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. Allahu Akbar, Rabbi ighfir li. Allah, that's bare minimum. Got it? That's bare minimum. Enough time for you to say the dhikr once. So you get into position, and then you say it, and then you move. Not saying the dhikr in movement. No. Stop, say it, move. Yes.
You're saying after the first sentence, you say رب اغفر لي 3 times when you say رب اغفر لي ولوالدي
You can say رب اغفر لي، رب اغفر لي وارحمني واهدني واجبرني، رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين. Several أدعية.
So it doesn't matter which one you say.
As long as there's رب اغفر لي in there. Yeah.
I just got one question, like, when you're saying, like, nothing from Salah, like, I heard, like, that's the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad when you put your foot up, your heel up.
In sitting. We're getting to that. That's one of the recommended actions of Salah. Right? So there's levels. There's the pillars, that's what we're talking about now. Without it, the Salah is void. Then there's the obligatory actions. If you forget it, it's fine, but you have to do it. Then there's the recommended actions of Salah. And those are a lot. That's most of what the Salah is. Then there's the nullifiers. Play. We're at 10, right? Tuma'nina. 11 is the final tashahhud. So if you're praying 3 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah, the one in the middle is not a pillar. Ooh. So for example, you're making dhuhr, right? You pray 2, and then you sit, you pray the tashahhud, the tahiyyatu lillah wa salatu tayyibat, right? Yes or no? You guys with me or not? That one is not a pillar. It's not a rukn. The middle one. It's not a pillar. The last one is. Yes, my friend.
Is that obligatory?
It is. Yes.
Can you repeat that again?
So when you make dhuhr, how many times do you sit and say at-tahiyyatu lillah? Twice. The first one is not a pillar. Which means if you forget it, you don't have to go back to it. But you can't purposely miss it. If you purposely miss it, your salah is void. But if you forget it, you don't have to go back to it. Yeah.
What do you do if you forget it?
I'll tell you. We're not there yet. We're getting there. Mashi? You guys with me, right?
Yeah.
So the last tashahhud is number 11. There's 3 more. Sitting for the last tashahhud is number 12. So you can't say the tashahhud standing. You have to be seated for it. Number 13 is the 2 Assalamu alaikum. This is according to the Hanbali madhab. Okay? Other madhahib, they say the first one is a pillar. Assalamu alaikum. You can say Assalamu alaikum. You can say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You can say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All permissible. I'm sorry about that.
What's
The Maliki, Assalamu alaikum. 1. Okay. In the Maliki, there's also 3. Another riwayah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum forward. Silent, Assalamu alaikum. Silent, Assalamu alaikum. ماشي مش مشكلة. So Assalamu alaikum or Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah or Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Like the most common is Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. That's the most common. Yes.
Do you get the same amount of hasanat for each one? Or is it one hasanat for
Follow the sunnah. Sunnah is both. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. The most common one is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Wa barakatuh, it's valid, but it's not the most common. So it's better for you to follow the most common. That's how many? 13. 14 is? What? What do you guys think? What's 14? The order, exactly. You have to keep the order. The sequence. It can't change. You can't do sujood before ruku' before Fatiha. Right? Ruku' before Allahu Akbar, no. Has to be in order. 14. Recap. What's number 1? Layla? Standing in the obligatory prayer. Very important nuance. Because if somebody prays the optional prayer sitting, it's fine. Okay? Standing in the obligatory prayer when able. Right. Number 2, Sister Noor? The first, Allahu Akbar, the first takbir. You cannot say Allahu al-A'zam, Allahu al-Kabir, Allahu al-Ahad, Allahu, other. No. It has to be this phrase, Allahu Akbar. Of course, there's a difference of opinion on it as well. But we're sticking to one opinion. Right? Allahu Akbar. This phrase is necessary. That's what? 2, right? What's 3?
3 is Fatiha.
Al-Fatiha. 4? Ruku'. 5?
Raising from the
Raising from
phone.
ruku'. 6? Muhammad Salim? Hashim? 6?
Standing straight.
Standing straight. 7? Umar? Sujood. 8? Zakaria?
Getting up.
Getting up from sujood. 9? Sa'ad?
Saying Rabbi Firli was.
No.
Rabbi Firli was.
No, that's not a pillar.
Oh, yeah, sitting was very.
Sitting. Exactly. That's what? That's 9, right? 10? Being comfortable in each position. 11?
Final tashahhud.
Final tashahhud. 12? Luqman?
Salam to the right
And left.
or in his house.
Salam to the right and left. That's what we're sticking with. Salam to the right and left. That's how many?
13.
Skip sitting for 12.
12.
Oh, 12.
12. Yeah, we skipped.
We skipped one, right? Sitting. Sitting for the final tashahhud. And then what? Taslim. And then the order. Right? Now some scholars say one of the pillars is saying Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. But we'll get to that inshallah.
Is that part of
No, tashahhud is at-tahiyyatu lillah was-salawat wat-tayyibat. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. You have to know that. You have to memorize it. Yes.
Is that Abdul? What if we say وأشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله?
There are several versions of it that are valid. Any one of the valid versions is fine. التحيات المباركات الصلوات الطيبات لله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. التحيات الزاكيات المباركات الطيبات لله. Yeah. That's later. That's not tashahhud. That's after tashahhud. So the tashahhud is this part. التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. This is tashahhud. Okay, this is tashahhud. After it, there's as-salat ala nabi. It's called as-salat al-Ibrahimiyya, the Abrahamic salat, the Abrahamic supplication, the Abrahamic salutation. However you want to call it. That's after tashahhud. And then after the Abrahamic salutation, there's dua. Right? All of it is part of salah. We're talking about the pillars. We're not talking about anything else just yet. Only the pillars. Anyway, Habibi.
So after you do the Salat al-Ibrahimiyya, you commit dua?
We're not there yet.
What can you?
There's dua after it, but we're not there yet. We're getting there. Inshallah. We will get there. Inshallah. Just be patient with me. I want to take things in sequence. Alright? So that we understand the importance. That's fiqh. Fiqh is, okay, what is the law? How do I know my salah is valid? That's what we're talking about now. We haven't talked about, okay, what is the best way to make salah? We're not there yet. We're talking about how do I know that my salah is valid? Yeah.
How would you call that? And fit is the law. The best way is
Suluk.
Okay.
Right? Suluk, adab, hay'ah. So we finished the pillars. Right? Now let's talk about the obligatory actions. Okay? There are 8. How many? 8. Pillars are how many? 14. Requirements are how many? 9. Obligatory actions are? You guys ready? So what is the difference between a pillar and obligatory action? Zakaria?
Is it the pillar is the most important thing, and the obligatory is you have to do it?
Right, so functionally, what's the difference? Aywa Layla.
You have to do it, and if you forget it, you have to redo it. And the obligatory action is when you have to do it, but if you forget, it's okay.
Right. If you forget it's okay. There's a way to make up for it. So obligatory action, you can make up for it if you forget it. But if you don't do it on purpose, your salah is void. You're like, you know what? I don't feel like doing the obligatory action this time. No, it doesn't count. But if you forget, there's a way to make up for it. Got it? How many obligatory actions are there? 8. The first one is all of the Allahu Akbar other than the first. So each time you say Allahu Akbar is obligatory, it's wajib. Except for the first one. The first one is a pillar. There you go.
When you say Allahu Akbar for the other ones, do you move your hand? Do you do Allahu
You move your hands, but we're not there yet. I'm talking about what you say. Right? The moving of the hands is a recommended action of prayer. Okay? It's not an obligation. Right? So in fiqh, things are very detailed.
Is it an obligation for the first one though? Or is it
To raise your hands with it, Habibi,
nothing?
stay with me. I said saying Allahu Akbar, not raising your hands. I didn't say make any mention of raising your hands whatsoever. Did I make mention of raising your hands? No. So the pillars are 14. Raising your hands is not one of them. Okay? It's part of Salah, but we're not there yet. Okay? So now we're on obligatory actions. The first of the obligatory actions is all of Allahu Akbar, except for the first one. That's number 1. Yes, my friend.
You say all the Allahu Akbar needs to be said out loud?
Yes. So the difference between saying something out loud and saying something silently. Saying something out loud is to say it where you can hear it and the people around you can hear it.
Okay.
Saying something silently is to say it where you can hear it only.
Okay. Okay.
As long as you say it. It needs to be said.
Okay.
The second is, what do you guys think?
Quran after?
No. Nope. Saying Sami Allahu liman hamida. For everyone? Does everyone say Sami Allahu liman hamida? No. The Imam and the one who's praying alone. So if you're the Imam or you're praying alone, You say Sami Allahu liman hamida. That's number 2. Yes.
If you're not an imam, you don't say it.
That's exactly what I just said.
So you can't say it though.
You do not say it. أيوة. طيب أيوة. What was that?
What happens if you lose it?
Like mistakenly?
Yeah.
Then خلاص, you made a mistake, it's fine. Yeah. But if you say it like out of spite, like I don't care, I'm gonna just go ahead and say it, then what's the point in making salah now? Now there is an opinion, a valid opinion, the Shafi'iyya, that everyone says Sami Allahu liman hamida. But that's not what we're going with. So say Sami Allahu liman hamida for the imam and the one who's praying alone. That's number 2. Number 3 is saying ربنا ولك الحمد. Who says ربنا ولك الحمد? Everybody. I'm sorry, what? Including the imam. Yeah.
You don't say out loud if you're the imam, right?
If you're the imam, you don't say it out loud. You say it where you can hear it yourself.
So you can't say it in your head.
You say it in your head, but you say it on your tongue. In your head is not enough.
Like moving your lip.
Moving your lips. And a little bit of voice. So there needs to be voice. Even if it's very low. Can you hear it? I heard it. Yes.
What does Rabbana?
That means, oh my Lord, to you belong all praise. It's like saying Alhamdulillah, but like the opposite way around. Lillah alhamd. Rabbana lak alhamd. Oh my Lord, to you belongs all praise. Yep.
So if you're making salah with someone, you say Sami Allahu liman hamida, and then the other person says Sami Allahu liman hamida instead of Rabbana lak alhamd. Are they following this different school of thought or different?
Most likely.
Okay. But that is a valid.
So one mistake that people make, and I guess it's worth mentioning because we're talking about it, is they say رَبَّنَا وَلَكَ الْحَمْدُ وَلَكَ الشُّكْرُ. You guys heard people say that? رَبَّنَا لَكَ الْحَمْدُ وَالشُّكْرُ. Right? That's wrong. It doesn't invalidate salah, but it's wrong. Anyway.
What if you say after that, حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه?
We're not there yet.
But is it wrong?
No. We're not there yet. We're talking about obligatory actions of salah. That is a recommended saying of salah. Tariq. Okay? So where were we? We said all of the takbirat, number 1. Number 2 is Sami Allahu liman hamidahu. Number 3, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Number 4, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim. In the ruku'. Subhana Rabbi al-Azim at least once. Is obligatory. That's 4, right? Subhana Rabbi al-Azim in the ruku'. Yeah.
But if I just say it
3 times.
3 times,
Right, that's not obligatory. It's part of salah, yes. Remember, we're talking about obligation. We're not there yet. Getting there. Inshallah. What else? That's 4, right? Right, that's 5. 4. 5 is Subhan Rabbil A'la in sujood. Yeah, at least once. 6 is saying Rabbi Ighfirli between the sujoods. You guys are caught up, right? No? 6, Rabbi Ighfirli. Did you get 5? 6 is saying Rabbi Ighfirli between the 2 sujood. In the sitting between the 2 sujood. At least once. We're there? What's 7? The first tashahhud. The first tashahhud. 8 is sitting for the first tashahhud. And we're done. Those are the obligatory actions of salah. Yes.
So it's not obligatory to read the Quran after doing the Fatiha?
Nope. That's agreed upon. And we'll stop. We'll end here. We'll talk about the extra, the recommended actions of salah, and the nullifiers, and then we'll go on to the next categories, inshallah. A lot of information, I know. جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك